Good evening and welcome to Ada Africa Journal Club, a space where we nurture and grow together. We nurture each other through peer-to-peer research mentorship. Today's session is on public speaking for scholars. A lot of us as academicians, researchers, scholars, primary investigators, project managers from time to time are actually challenged with our communication skills because we've got to translate jargon terms that are out of deep research knowledge into layman perspective for the general public. Sometimes we are also required to produce a high number of appearances in public, and that is also a way of expanding the image of what researchers are to the ordinary mwananchi or to the ordinary global citizen. So today we are going to be having a really interesting discussion on the topic, public speaking for scholars. And with us is one of our own members. She's not new to us. You've been seeing her giving different presentations on different topics. I must say she has a gift in public speaking as well. And I would like to formally introduce her before I hand over the session to her to take us through public speaking for scholars. So today we have Mrs. Nazarene Kiwinga, who is actually a master's student, graduate student at United States International University, Africa, completing her Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology. She is passionate about research and mentorship, and she is trained in CBT, which means cognitive behavioral therapy. It's one of the mainstays of clinical psychology work. She's a founder of an agency called Safe Space Mental Health Services. She volunteers at a rehab for street men, and she is very passionate in research on psychological distress and psychological resilience. In fact, the other day, Nazarene gave a wonderful presentation on psychological distress of graduate students who are also in employment. She is a member of KCPA, which means Kenya Counselors and Psychologists Association. And she has many years of public speaking in different settings, such as religious settings in the church, at weddings, doing emceeing, at social gatherings, scholarly events that are official and public like this one, schools, and so on and so forth. And prior to her master's in clinical psychology, she matriculated with an undergraduate degree, which was a Bachelor of Science in Food Science and Post-Harvest Technology. Now, this is really interesting. I'll be happy to hear the connection between, our liberation. We say in Africa, if we liberate ourselves in how we grow our food, then it definitely improves our mental health. It also improves our development. So this is really interesting. She has a bachelor's in food science and post-harvest technology and a diploma in information management systems, IMIS. So basically quite broad skill set and quite versatile, so to speak. She's also a certified CBT practitioner. And among other accolades, I'd now like to invite Nazarene Kiwinga to take it away. Welcome. I'm not sure if she's still in the meeting or she got kicked. Oh, here she is. Please unmute.
Hey, sorry about that.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, so once again, I would like to, greet you. As it was stated, I'm not sure how clear. Maybe Wangari, you can let me know.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. We can also see you. I wish there was a light in front of your face, but it's okay. We can still see you.
I hope I can do
That's
better.
a little better. Thank you.
Better.
Yes, now we can see you.
I'm not in my regular environment, But anywho, when it calls for it, we do what we need to do. So, as it was stated, I'm very glad to be here today. Wangari stated, my name is Nazarene and Kiwinga, and I love Journal Club, and I enjoy mentorship, and I'm very passionate about research. Well, Wangari, if you could allow me to share my screen, and then we can take it on from there. And today we are going to have a look at public speaking. Why is public speaking important for scholars? I'm not yet able, Wangari, if you would, to share my screen.
And now you can share.
Okay, okay,
All right.
amazing. So great. So you will wonder why would it be important for a scholar to learn public speaking? And you would be thinking you're not selling anything to anyone. Interestingly, you are. So let us find out how that happens. I'm just going to share my slide and hope that the internet will hold stable throughout. When it doesn't, let's just get in the flow and move along with it. So, as stated, my name is Nazarene Kiwinga. And what is public speaking? It actually is learning how to speak well. All of us speak. Some of us pretty well, some not so good, some almost have a heart attack if they must speak in front of people. But today, hopefully, we can change our mindsets. As a scholar, if you have been in public speaking, it is amazing. And you probably will share some tips on the chat. Feel free to do that. But for those who are probably starting off and some are not so comfortable with it, today we start. That's our plan. And then later, we will grow consistently by investing in ourselves. And in a short while, you and I will move from one level to another as we inspire people to be better than they were before. So from time to time, we will find ourselves in a situation where we have to speak publicly. And sometimes we are ready for it, sometimes not. Sometimes at work, you're required to make a presentation, as the moderator had said earlier, that you're probably a project manager, or you've completed a piece of work and you're required to give a report in front of your colleagues at work. So people respect, ask you to say something, it'll say Daktari say something, or so-and-so say something, and you'll stand and have to say something. Even at family functions, at a funeral, at a wedding, I have done plenty of that at weddings and funerals. And sometimes you're not ready for it. Sometimes in church, we can either do it badly or we can do it well. And this affects how the audience thinks of us, unfortunately. That's just how it goes, that how we present ourselves will make people think of us in a way or the other. And this is what actually creates anxiety and concern. It could be a physical presentation or an online presentation. I'll probably pause in a little bit there on the online presentation and say there's what we call netiquette. And you'll probably find someone will have I'll twist, I'll move my screen a bit just so that I show you what I have seen in presentations. You'll see somebody making their presentation and their screen is like that. So you cannot see their mouth. You cannot have there's no communication with them with regards to who they are or what they look like. Sometimes they have the head all the way gone, and you're not able to interact with them, and they are not able to interact with you. So that's with online presentation. So it's good to check that you're within the frame of the camera. It's also good to ask someone else to check for you whether your lighting is good. You remember those people came in earlier enough. You had me ask the moderator, is my lighting enough? She said no, so we twisted it a little bit until we're able to find a place where we're able to communicate, because my face in an online presentation is all I have. You may see a little bit of with my hands. You cannot see the rest of my body language. So it's very important that my face is clear as much as is humanly possible. And with the grace of technology, I hope it will be visible. that's, that goes with online presentations. What about with physical presentations? People will look at how you're standing, how you're smiling, your contact with them, whether you're engaged. All these things will determine how successful your presentation is going to be like. So what are the goals of public speaking, you may ask? You may seek to motivate. You may be in a space where you have to tell your life story, and your life story should motivate someone who's in a down and dump or not doing so well, and you move them to the next level. At the beginning, before most people came in, there was a bit of a conversation between two individuals, and one was saying, oh, I have not been doing really well with myself, and the other was saying, we need to talk about this. So you're looking to motivate the other person. Sometimes it may be one-on-one, but occasionally you may find 20, 30, even 100 people that you may have to motivate. You can inspire. You can have had a successful story. The moderator said, I would like to know how it is that Nazarene came from a BSc in food science and post-harvest technology into clinical psychology. That would probably inspire someone. It can be about informing us scholars. We have something we want to share. There's something we have found out from our research. There is something we've come across. There's probably even literature that you have synthesized and you want to inform with regards to what you have been studying. You might also want to persuade. You may have a new way of looking at something. It could be a new theory. And you may want to persuade that things don't have to be a certain way. They can be in a different way. So those could be your goals. And I might just want to ask right now, if you could, on the chat, just probably tell me, have you had any public speaking training? If you could just throw that statement there, and it would be useful feedback for me and for the ones moderating this session, and for Ada Africa, just to know how many people have had any training on public speaking. Clearly, because I am not the only person who knows how to do public speaking, neither am I the only person who has attended trainings or have had experiences. I just want to share my story and probably inform or persuade or inspire or motivate someone. So I'll probably ask you a few questions and let's see how this goes. Do you get nervous at the thought of speaking publicly? You just might be told, okay, Stephen or Teresa, stand up and tell us something. And what happens with you? Do you get nervous? Do you have knowledge that you would like to share, but the fear stops you? You could have carried out a research, you have your results, you have everything, but you're always thinking, I'm not the one who's going to present at Ada Africa at the Journal Club, but you have something you would want to share. Is it fear that stops you? And the third question is, do you have a desire to speak confidently, to engage and persuade your clients? And your clients can start from Journal Club members all the way to your community, to your state or your nation, and to the whole world. You might have something that you want to share with them and probably engage them and persuade them into your way or your line of thought. So if you did answer yes to any of the previous questions, then this would be nice for you. And what you need to know is that public speaking skills can be learned and perfected. Some are gifted, but some also put in the work. And if you put in the work, it is an art you can perfect. And allow me to say that nervousness is normal. It's basically a physiological reaction that everyone experiences, myself included. But some of us have it easier than others. And it happens when you stand in front of a group, whether you know in advance or whether it's an impromptu engagement. Even when I'm preparing for this meeting and it's an online public speaking, I'll probably some have a bit of butterflies here and there. But having done it over time, I may not be aware now, but at the beginning, I probably was, would have really serious butterflies. But as you engage by and by and you become more confident, you're able to, sort of put a pin on it and be able to get better at it. So what happens at that point is some people will break into a sweat and your stomach falls into a pit and like your mind goes into overdrive, and sometimes people have issues breathing. The breathing is really shallow. Now, the truth is this has nothing to do with whether you know a topic or not. It really is just a normal reaction, and it can interrupt a lot of other reactions and even your interaction with people. So allow me to say that public speaking should not be a time of heightened nervousness or great discomfort. It should be an opportunity to speak and influence others while commanding the limelight and getting your point across. Like right now, I'm actually the one on the limelight. I have an opportunity to convince, hopefully, and get my point across to you. That's how um, our attitude towards public speaking should be, because a lot of stuff has a lot to do with your attitude. So if you start there, you have something to share, butterflies notwithstanding, stomach in the pit, afraid and doing it. But if you take an opportunity to command the limelight and get your point across, that's just what public speaking should be. So you might ask me, so why is it necessary for scholars? We could just, do what we do the research and keep it in the books and someone will read and, whatever, man. I have a conviction that scholars put in a lot of work in research and study. This knowledge ought to be disseminated to others for the mutual benefit of others in our community and the nation and the world. You do have something to say to the world. It is easier to work with a keyboard and, stay behind the screen. There's great value in speaking to people directly. It builds your confidence. It enhances your reputation and opens countless of opportunities. When I'm speaking here, I don't know who I'm speaking to. I just see names. But I don't know, someone could be looking for someone like me right here. Or someone will see this presentation some point and look for someone like me at some place. So it actually opens for opportunities for you without you having to advertise yourself. If you have done a research and you have results, you could be speaking to a potential partner or a potential employer. And you don't have to advertise. You just need the 15 minutes or the 3 minutes. Sometimes it's just 3 minutes. And it could literally change your story. As good skills open doors, so bad ones close them. So by giving a bad impression, it makes your audience get the impression that you don't know what you're talking about well enough. And there goes your opportunity out of the window. So it is very important that we speak in a way that we engage people. We communicate what we intended to communicate. And we're able to bring in people to believe in what we are saying because we are able to project authenticity. So what are the steps? For starters, for beginners, start small. Speak in front of a mirror. Prepare your presentation, stand in front of a mirror, and look at yourself and become your own audience. From there, you can get 2 trusted friends. Who can actually give you genuine feedback. They are few and far between, but you could find 1 or 2 who can give you feedback. And practice your presentation in front of them. Particularly if you have one you're prepared for, like you've been told, okay, Nazarene, you're making your presentation on this date. And so I could look for 2 friends and, just make the presentation in front of them. And take the opportunity to speak in front of a small group. This is a group of a few people, not so many, but it could have been 1,000. It could have been, any number. Thank God for online presentations, because I may not know while I'm making the presentation how many people may be in here. But if you're beginner, it's good to start small so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And when you're not ready, and this is important, just when you're not ready, just jump into the deep end. And you will sweat it out. But at the end of it, you will have desensitized yourself and you'll be able to say, I can do this. From the place of I can do this, I can't do this, to a place where you can say, I did this, I can do this. Because it's purely a journey. If you remember at the start, the first now, in a while. So it's generally a growth. And no one begins from a place of knowledge. You begin from a place of not knowing, having little understanding, and then moving to the next level. So what do we do about the message while we make these presentations? We are preparing to do the public speaking. Now, make sure that your message is clear, it is concise, and it is well structured. The simpler, the better. If you have slides, have as minimalistic type of slides as possible. because your goal is to make a powerful delivery. You're better off giving little information, but it sticks with the people with your audience. What are the pitfalls that you can encounter in your message? And this is not the whole package. There are two main ones. You could desire to give too much information in such a way that you crowd people's minds and they don't remember where you started or where you ended. And you could trip over your words if you are nervous or the nervousness gets beyond you. You could trip over your words. So learn to take it slow, breathe in and breathe out, read your words carefully, think through what you're saying, and remember you're the person with the message, delivering it to your audience. So carry your message with grace. Now, as you do that, plan. This is important that we plan, because if we don't plan, someone once said, then if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. So plan appropriately. Use available tools. Here is an example. Today we're going to just have a look at one example. It will help you to work through how to get there. We'll use the Rhetoric Triangle. It comprises of a writer or a speaker. You could be writing, but today we are talking about the speaker, the content, and the audience. These are the three people who make the edges, the tips of the triangle. And here is the Rhetoric Triangle. It's the ethos, the logos, and the pathos. For the ethos, we have the writer or the speaker. The logos is the content. The pathos is the audience. So let's talk about the speaker, who is you that is attending the public speaking webinar this evening. The ethos refers to the way the speaker affects the argument. Simply because I am Nazarene, there is a way I am affecting today's argument that is different from Teresa or Dr. Wangari or Stephen. The way I will deliver is different, and therefore I will affect this communication, this interaction, or this message just because of who I am. So one, clarify who you are. Thankfully, I had the one moderating the session say, her name is Nazarene, this is what she does. Why are you competent to speak on the issue at hand? You're a researcher. You are probably the principal, or you are someone else. Where does your authority come from? Is it from research? Is it from experience? Is it from synthesis of information? So explain that to your audience. This helps the audience to weigh you and decide if you're sincere enough. I can probably say that when you saw my face, you're thinking, and you had, different thoughts going through your mind with regards to the speaker of the day. So I don't know if I won your heart for you to decide whether I am sincere enough to give this conversation. I hope I did. And so the next step as a public speaker is the audience. You want to think about your audience even as you're preparing your message. You seek to communicate from a place of understanding the audience and appeal to their emotions, because you want to inspire, you want to motivate, you want to inform, you want to persuade. Having those goals, then you want to appeal to their emotions. If you're on a physical interactions, you can read how people are behaving. They're probably sitting back on their seats and with their hands crossed and probably with their legs, stretched out. They're probably sitting facing right up and they want to be part of this conversation. You're able to sort of engage and appeal to their emotions. Having this understanding of your audience prevents you from alienating your audience with jargon. For instance, if you're speaking to layman about your research because you want to inform them, you're probably not bringing the jargon that you would to people in your profession. Again, you don't want to dumb down the information while you're speaking to professionals. So it's important to understand who your audience is. So after that, you will go into your content. It will be determined by the speaker and by the audience. The way I will make this presentation to professionals like you and scholars today is very different from how I will do this to a school, for instance, how to do public speaking. If I go to talk about public speaking in a high school, I'll not probably use the jargon, ethos, logos, pathos. So I will speak differently. So the content needs to be relevant. It needs to be clear. it needs to be coherent, and it needs to be delivered in an appropriate manner. So the audience needs to follow for your message to be believable. If for instance, I'm speaking in a monotone, I started the way I started, I'm going up, neither am I going down, or varying my voice. No matter how good my content is, if my delivery is not spiced with the personality of who I am, you may be a wonderful audience. The content may be relevant, but you don't believe me because you want to go to sleep. So how I deliver will be wound down. So that's why it's a triangle. One thing depends on the other. So body language. I mentioned if you're having a physical presentation, you can read your audience body language, they can read your body language. So you need to communicate that. Research shows that body language counts for more than 50% of the entire content. So you could have beautiful content and you are unable to deliver it because your body language is just not probably appealing. And I've learned that if you're authentic and you smile at people, you look at them in the eye, you connect with them, then they will believe you. How one appears is communicated non-verbally to the audience. Even before I spoke, you had already made a certain judgment of who I am. The goal of public speaking is to be able to exude confidence in the body language. And this involves communication through eye contact, the vocabulary, the movement, the attitude, the feel. Those are things you cannot say, I am feeling like this, or I am communicating this by standing this way. People will make inferences. So in certain cultures, if you cross your legs, you're probably making a presentation, you're seated. If you cross your legs, some people feel insulted. So it's good to understand what your body language is saying to people. If you're leaning in forward, what are you saying? If you're leaning in backward and you're laid back, there is something you're communicating. So remember that how you present yourself and how your body language is communication, and that is important. Then maybe you might ask, what's the value to me as a scholar with public speaking? As I had stated earlier, public speaking attracts opportunities. You will get noticed by potential partners in your area of interest in research and employment, and even further studies and career progression. For instance, you could be, I'm very passionate about psychological distress and psychological resilience research. There could be someone here in this group who is also passionate, equally passionate. Remember, with two, it gets easier. And we could do a lot, two people, than I could ever do personally. So I could be speaking in, like the last time I was here and I was talking about psychological distress among graduates who are in employment. There could have been someone who picked up and was like, that's an interesting area. I would like to be in contact with Nazarene, and we could see what we could do. There could be an organization that is interested in psychological distress, could look to fund your research. But until you have spoken publicly, your information doesn't benefit anyone else but yourself. Public speaking can change your mindset and that of others. When engaging more than one, you can transmit what you know faster and influence more people. If I have results from 10 researches I have done, and I only have them probably in my flash drive or in a journal, and it's in some remote space that nobody ever goes, what value is that? But if I have an opportunity for a colloquium and I can present my results, I could change someone's mindset. I could change, for instance, my own mindset with regards to how I was doing this research. And I'd be like, someone could ask a question, I'm like, I never thought of that. And that adds value to what we are doing as scholars. When you complete public speaking, there is a rush of competence that you feel, and control and power, even just because you overcame your own fear. It occurs and makes you feel confident to perform, even in other areas of life that seem challenging, no matter the size of your audience, because you overcome your fears, your nervousness, your discomfort and you throw yourself out there. Public speaking is lucrative. There are people who make a living out of public speaking. There are people who didn't die with anything that was inside of them. If you would imagine, if you would allow me to say, someone like Miles Munro, he said that many of us would take the poetry and the music to the grave because we leave it in there. I would suggest that many researchers will take a lot of knowledge to the grave because we refuse or unable to stand out there and, speak what we know. It is about selling your point, whatever it may be. When considering how much investment in time as a scholar and resources as a researcher you put, it is crucial that the results obtained are communicated not just to the academic world, but to the general population. How will people know the effects of COVID if research into the, if the data is not synthesized and distributed to the world? If we all wait for World Health Organization, how will this data trickle down to everyone else? When you do public speaking, it will push you out of your comfort zone and therefore you will grow. Not just in knowledge, but in the power to influence others. When we do research, one of the reasons why we do research is not only to help society, but to influence. And when you are able to influence, you hold power and you wield power while you do that. You also grow in overcoming your own anxiety. So there is great value. I hope I am selling this idea to you.
Yes,
now,
you are.
Thank you. There is something I want to speak to you from my experience. No one in the world has the combination of knowledge and skills that you have. No one, because no one has done your journey. And remember, as we said with the triangle, who you are and your personality affects the message and the delivery. No one in this world can offer the world what you can offer. No one. Only you can share it in the way it should be shared, and the world is waiting to hear. Make it relatable, make it your story, make it understandable. The world is waiting to hear from you. If I may, I will say that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. A lot of people are very uncomfortable public speaking, but life will begin at that point when you step into your area of discomfort. So there are my contact details, and it was an absolute pleasure to make that presentation to you. I don't know if there are any questions. I would like to stop sharing at that point and hand it back over to Dr. Wangari.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I've learned a lot. I enjoyed looking at the triangle. I've always known about ethos, pathos, and logos, but I actually did not know it's called the Rhetoric Triangle, but it's a really good framework for preparing a speech, reaching people at all these levels, pathos, ethos, and logos. Thank you so much. That's one thing I'm going to take away. So now I'd like to open up to the audience. We have 27 minutes. Please feel free to ask any question at all. Also use this opportunity to reflect on your own experience. Nazarene has given us a good challenge to know that wherever you are, you can start now, and then improve as you go along. So I'd like to hear your experience as well as any challenges, barriers, obstacles, successes in the space of public speaking. So let's hear from you. You can just unmute. We're not so many. You can just unmute and speak or raise your hand so that I know that you would like to say something, or you can also type in the chat. So far I'm seeing we had asked earlier, you had asked if we have ever had training in public speaking. And nawirieve@gmail.com says, this is the first training on public speaking. Wow, okay. And then Peter says, I haven't had either public speaking session or training. I hope to have one during defense of my proposal. Okay, Well, I hope you can take away some tips here because this will be very applicable to your proposal. So I'm just monitoring to see if there's any hand raised. Anybody who wants to say something? I think we are still digesting. It was a very powerful presentation. So welcome. The floor is open. Anybody who has any comment or question? So maybe to start off that session, my question to Nazarene is, have you ever had any bloop or embarrassing moment while public speaking, not necessarily as a scholar or in a scholarly space, but just in general in your life? And how did you overcome that embarrassing moment?
Okay, thank you very much, Gary. Allow me to say that I have been thinking from back, like way back. I'm those little girls who did poetry from the age of 5, 6, and that has been my school of public speaking. I went all the way to nationals with the with the Shairi in high school. So basically, I have grown in public speaking. Like I said, you start now, then later, and then in a while you become. So to be very truthful, I do not remember having a bloop. But one thing that usually is, I'll be probably more intentional when it gets there because I could actually laugh at myself. So that's the one area I'm really careful with. But generally, I haven't had a bloop, I can say. And it's something I really love to do. So I would probably just take it over and move on with it and, maybe make a joke out of it. But I have spoken, I have sung in, in weird places everywhere. And I've learned that so many people are scared of this, that I'm actually really good. So I'll say the same to you, that you might think you're not as good, but so many people out there are so afraid of speaking in public. You'll surprise yourself. So step out there and just do it. I wouldn't think I can remember of any really embarrassing space, but there are times my voice has wanted to just disappear, because I'm thinking this is a really large crowd. There was a time I was I was doing solo music in front of the late President Moi, and my voice died in the morning, and I was thinking this is really good, and then I was told I don't have a choice. So so that is something that can happen, and it's actually a physiological reaction to fear. And yes, so it can happen, but when you're pushed between a rock and a hard space, then you end up doing what you need to do. So I feel scholars, these are soft skills that as scholars we need to, engage. We spend a lot of time hidden under the books, behind the screens, and, typing away. We have so much we can offer the world. Let's just step out there, gifted or not gifted, just do it. Your audience doesn't know what you know until you have spoken. So get out there and do it.
Okay, thank you. I guess your moment was way before you went onto stage. You woke up with, your voice wasn't working.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder if it was on stage what you would have done, but I'm also curious to, yeah, I'm also curious to hear from anyone else, how has been your experience with public speaking as a scholar? So thank you for that. Dan has raised his hand. Welcome. Dan Ginger. You may unmute.
Thank you, Nazarene, for making such a great presentation. I've learned a lot from what you have shared with us this evening. What I would like you to shed light on is about this demonstrating that you are competent to speak about a certain topic and you are not certified maybe in that field. And I ask this question because most of us are autodidacts in many fields. So I wanted you to shed more light on that. How can you bridge autodidact, being an autodidact, and now this being taken seriously by an audience who, yeah. That's that. I hope you get me.
Hopefully I can answer and meet one, your expectation. And two, probably help with regards to how to make yourself, one, confident, because you have to first believe in yourself before you can help anyone else believe in you. You may not necessarily have the training for it. When I say the training, not necessarily have a master's degree or a doctoral degree for you to speak with authority with regards to a topic. For instance, if you're, say, a master's student and you have done a thesis and you have, clearly followed the steps and done, what is supposed to be done, and you have results, those are results. You have a supervisor, for instance. Those are results you could present, and that gives you authority to speak with regards to your research and your results, because they've passed through the system. You passed your thesis through IRB, NACOSTI, and through you, and that is why there's a supervisor, for instance. Another thing is experience. I sit here and I say, I have done public speaking from probably the age of 5. That is good experience that you can't get out of school. Even a doctoral degree could go up to probably 4 years to 10 years. This is like a lifetime. So experience is good enough, so long as what you're talking about can be backed up by research. As I said, when I say the research states that more than 50% of your content is your body language. I don't have to have a master's degree in communication to know that. I can reference where I got that information. So you just have to know ETC after your name. It's just the content that you're delivering. Are you competent enough to deliver that? If you ask me, for instance, how many places have I spoken in public? I could probably not know the number. How many times in church? I probably don't know. How many times in funerals and weddings? I don't know. So what have I learned? Every time I've spoken in front of people, I have said that content was that you delivered was powerful because I am coming from a place of experience. So check with yourself and ask another person. I always, whenever I have to make a presentation, asks me,
I think your internet
ask me questions so that I
but
might
we
answer.
can hear you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I don't know if I have answered satisfactorily what you were looking for with regards to competence. You have to be well prepared. You have to know your content. It is good to check in. You can also partner with someone else. For instance, I'm in clinical psychology. I'm completing my master's in just a few days. Wangare is a doctor in clinical psych. I could want to pass something through her. Wangare, I'm making this presentation. Have a look at it. That gives me confidence in that the content that I'm presenting can be backed up. And I will present from a place of saying, okay, Daktari had a look at it. So clearly, I have some, I have confidence in what I'm saying. If there was something, should probably have picked it up. So it's always good to check in with someone else if you're feeling not so confident as you start. Remember, it is a place to start. The next time you make your presentation, you feel confident as you seem to feel that you are done. I hope I have answered with the competence.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I've learned a new word from Dan. He says autodidact. I had to check it up because I didn't know what it means. It means somebody who is self-taught. I really like those tips because a lot of times journal club members ask me, do I need to have proper certificate and training to deliver a session. And, our space is for you to practice and to grow as you present. You don't have to, be a full professor to make a presentation. So thank you so much for that. I see Stephen Olubuliera's hand is up. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Thank you, Nazarene, for a very good presentation. My question is about impromptu. The impromptu request to make a public speaking. For us, it's not about research only, but sometimes you are called upon to inspire, to motivate. So with your experience, have you been reading books? Because for me, I imagine being called to inspire a team. And you are not planned for it. Somebody just appointed you to do the inspiration. Of course, you are allocated all the time, and they get you flat-footed. You're not expected to do the presentation, to do the inspiration, to give the speech. Now you are required to give a speech, and you can't give a 5-minute speech. They expect you to do more. Now, how can you circumvent? How can you prepare? Have you been reading books? Give us tips. Thank you.
Amazing. Stephen, thank you so much. When you were saying that, I remembered a speech I gave at some place. And one, it's called impromptu because you're unprepared. You're caught off guard. True. You're caught flat-footed. True. Have you been reading books in preparation for that day? No. So what have I learned? One, when you're called, breathe in and breathe out. And remember, out of these 300 people, it is you who was picked. So clearly, even the heavens know you have something to share. Before anyone else does, you have something to share. I have learned that if you seek to tell your story, like I said, there is something the world wants to hear from you. And only you can tell that story. So I'm going to give a short story of what happened to me. I was a beginner in School of Music, and I knew very little. And I was called upon to make the presentation in front of very well-versed people in music. And I decided I'm not going to talk about music at all because I don't know anything about music to speak in front of all these people who are so knowledgeable. And so I spoke about what I know, and I talked about life, and I talked about my experience with life. And one thing I did is actually I sport blonde hair, and I spoke about that. And I inspired people to be okay with being different, to be able to give your statement, to have something to tell the world, to be strong enough to be not like everyone else. Interestingly, that speech actually motivated someone, inspired someone. And one of those people is with us here this evening. And one of those people turned out to be one of my very best friends. So you don't have to be prepared. You don't have to have read any book to have your story inspire someone. You just need to know I have something with me that no one else has. I'll quote Miles Monroe. He said, many will go to the grave with the poetry and the unsung songs. Stand, sing your song, tell your story. As I say, today we are speaking as scholars, and we are focusing on scholars, but you're not just scholars. You have other areas of life. You have a social life. You're a social being. You'll be called up at a funeral, at a wedding, at a space where you least expect to be speaking. And learn to moderate your voice. Take it high, take it low, hold it together. And those things will make people say, who's that speaking? And that's what public speaking is about. Having the moment, taking the limelight, not necessarily for 5 minutes, it could even be for 2 minutes, and sometimes it could be for 30. But if you don't begin, you will never do it. We were having a presentation some time back, and the presenter, it was an online presentation, but the presenter kept her face literally half from the screen, and we couldn't see what she's saying. And remember, you have the limelight, Stephen. They don't know your story. You know your story. You're the only person who can tell your story as it ought to be told. Don't wait for people to write your story. Tell your story. They don't know what you're going to talk about. You have control of the conversation. So step out, believe in yourself, breathe in and breathe out. By the time you are standing in front of everyone else, you have a story to tell. Good luck with that, Stephen.
Thank you.
I also really, just to add, I think aside from believing in yourself generally, even with an impromptu speech, somehow I usually come up with a 3-point plan, tell people what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you just told them. And even just sticking with one idea somehow, for me helps at least to get organized. So I like that. I wanted to ask a question on the ethos, pathos, and logos. And you mentioned that pathos is appealing to emotion, and then logos is appealing to logic, and ethos is credibility, having people know that you're a credible source of information. And especially for scholarly presentations, how can we include ethos in terms of hooking the audience into the emotional side, or into the maybe the pain of the, I don't know, or the joy, or I think maybe talk a little bit about ethos. I'm quite clear about how pathos would be. Talk about pathos. Pathos is the emotion. Ethos is clear for me. That would be the credibility. That's easy to establish. And logos is the logical flow and, the thoughts. But the pathos part of the emotion, how do you actually bring in the pathos, in a scholarly setup?
Dr. Terry, everything we do in research is about people. If you start from a place of conviction that it's about people, even when you're working with lab rats, the goal is people, right? So if you can hold your content in such a way that you're delivering it to people, and understanding your audience is very important. If you are, for instance, researching on someone who may probably doing something in microbiology, you may be wondering, how do I bring the people's emotions into this? It is by use of a story, for instance. I went somewhere and I was sitting in a hospital, and they were saying, if you find the guinea worm, report, and you will get 100,000 shillings for that. And I was like, maybe people should start hunting for the guinea worm. Exactly. Now, this was just about guinea worms. It doesn't sound like anything you want to engage emotions in. But right there, I got your face, Dr. Didn't I? Because I said something that connected. So to engage people's emotions, even in very dry presentations, for instance, and dry with a lot of respect. For instance, the value of zero. For instance, I am not in math. I'm just thinking of like the driest thing I would probably think of, with a lot of respect. And you're wondering, how do I bring people's emotions into this? You could look for a story. And this is why I like the TED Talks. And if you go to the TED Talks, the driest of all things will have something beautiful you can take home. And I don't remember exactly who it was, but I do remember what was done because it evoked an emotion for me. And they were talking about malaria, and they had this little can, and he said he was going to open it and spread the mosquitoes. And so people were like, oh, just right there, malaria had an emotion for them. So find something that helps you to connect with the pathos for the audience. Give them an emotion. There is a statement that's said by Maya Angelou. People don't remember what you did to them. They remember how you made them feel. You could have amazing content. That is all the education you've done for your last 8 years has no value to anyone if it makes them feel nothing. So if tonight I make you feel something, then I have delivered content. And that's the way you could go. Find a story, find an emotion you could tag on to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be excitement. It could be fear, depending on what you want to your information to achieve.
All right, thank you. That was really clear. I appreciate it. Okay, anyone else with any comment, question? Please also tell us your experience in public speaking in the scholarly space. I haven't heard much about people's experiences yet. Please feel free to share. We still have time for one or two last comments. Aha, Benjamin and then Jane, and then we call it a day. Make it brief. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. I don't know what, maybe Prof. Nazarene, I don't know what your name is, but thank you for sharing. My name is Benjamin Akimoje. So my experience with public speaking, I've been fortunate to be part of Toastmasters for a long time. And I've used that to my advantage. I'm never afraid to speak. But one of the things I'm lacking right now is ability to speak succinctly, not to, focus on the point at hand, most cases. And I've also realized that there's a great difference between speaking online and speaking physically. Face-to-face, I'm comfortable. I can use gestures to get by. But digitally watching myself, I'm struggling right now. Toastmaster has been helpful, and I will encourage everybody to embrace Toastmasters. So that's how public speaking has been for me as a scholar. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Jane, welcome.
Thank you so much, Nazarene. I know I usually have so much to say when I'm told to give a lecture. I want to tell the whole story, and just being able to summarize it is usually quite a problem. And I think that's something I need to learn. And also the other side of the story where you are like, I know all these things, but I want to remain in the comfort zone. That's the other side. Even today I was remaining in the comfort zone, but I thought maybe I need to speak. The other interesting thing is that I think what caught my attention is you're the only one who can tell it the way you can tell it. I mean, you're special. And I think that's interesting. That's quite an eye opener. And also the issue of, I think what Dr. Angare asked about capturing people's emotions. I think that's usually very important. I think like on Saturday, I was listening to a sermon, and at the end of the day, I found myself teary. And I was like, why am I teary? And it's because of something that the person who was giving the lecture said about how people can use their own means to their own end to appear like they are doing good, but yet they are enhancing slavery. And that got me, I think from the whole sermon, that's something I can remember. So capturing people's emotion, I think is very important. And I think it's something I can also learn. Thank you, Nazarene.
Nazarene, maybe you can respond to those two and then we wrap up.
Okay. With regards to Benjamin, focus. Have your points. Have your points at hand. If, for instance, today my screen was unable to share, what would I have done? Would I have made the same presentation? Have your points at the fingertips. That will help you focus. Number two, sometimes the need to over elaborate could take you to a place where you had 5 points, you end up just doing 3. So you sort of digress too much. You could check and sort of cut down on what you need to say. You could actually do like a table of contents and then build up on that as you go down. That will help with your focus. Number 3, with regards to online presentation, as I say, the only thing you have with an online presentation is your face. So all those things you gesticulate with your hand, the only thing you can see is that little hand that flies over there. I only have my face. I have my mouth, I have my teeth, I have my eyes, I have my eyebrows, I have my face. That's all I have, and I must use all those, and there are plenty to communicate with you so that you buy into my authenticity even before you can buy into my story. So use your mirror, learn to engage everything you have on your face. If I didn't have glasses, I could probably use my eyes better than I can use them with, when they are hidden behind the glasses. But you still have plenty. You just need to learn to use it. because it's the handicap of online presentation. But just because we are handicapped by online presentation doesn't mean we are unable to utilize what we have. Now, that's what I could say with regards to Benjamin. Jane, we know each other from a different space. And yes, using emotions leaves people with a story. After this is said and done, you probably don't have even 3 points to take home, but you'll think the presentation by Nazarene was about public speaking. You have one thing, probably just because of what my face looked like. So catching people's emotion tells your story better than anyone else could. Number 2, you have a story the world is waiting to hear. Tell it. And you're the only one who can tell the story. Good luck with public speaking.
All right. And there's a question coming in the WhatsApp chat. Somebody says the Zoom chat is disabled. I'm not sure if anybody else is having the same problem. Sorry about that. So Faith is asking, just curious, what are the first tips an examiner would look out for in a speaking exam?
Okay, so if I was examining someone and they were speaking out, I'd want first to see, now, is it an online or is it a physical? Because I'll be looking for different things. If it's an online public speaking opportunity, I will want to see where your face is at with regards to the size of your screen. Is it centered? Are you moving your face, or are you holding one position like you're in frozen state? Are you able to utilize the distance forward, the distance backwards, to the side? Are you communicating with your body? That is something, as we said, more than 50% of your content is your body language. Are you confident? Are you able to exude confidence? Do I want to listen to you even before I've listened to your content? Because content anyone can read. That is why they are the examiner. They can read. But are you able to allow people to buy into your story? Are they inspired to want to listen to the story? Are they motivated enough to be held captive for an hour? I've been holding you captive for almost an hour. Do people want to be in that? Those are the things, those are soft skills that you could have been gifted with, but they're things you could work on. Now, with regards to public speaking, and I'm seeing that we are way past time, I want to see, how are you standing if it is a standing conversation? Are you fidgety? Are you drawing maps on the ground? Are you having a comfortable shoe if you're a lady? Because that's important. You could be walking like you are hanging from a tree. Those things that don't look like they matter, they really, really matter because they're communicating something. Do you look like you are prepared to come for this? Are you so sweaty that you keep touching your ears? You're wondering if her earphone is falling. Trust me, I can hear you from the other side. Do you look like you are prepared? Those are soft skills that you cannot read in a book. But if you look at yourself in the mirror before you make a presentation, okay, my dress is halfway hanging on this. Small things. Content you can prepare. You can read, you can reread, you can have your points, you can, sort of narrow them down. You can use mnemonics if you need to, but they are soft skills that make your content believable, authentic, and people want to buy into your story. Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful session this was. I have really, really been empowered, and I believe that Journal Club members and guests also have been empowered. I see Jane Maina clapping. Thank you so much for the wonderful participation together here. Zainab Shalango, I see you. Fatma Amio, I see you just cheering on for this wonderful session. And I would like to acknowledge you, Nazarene, for volunteering to do this. All of the people who do presentations at Journal Club actually volunteer. So if you are here, you are a member of Journal Club, you are next. Just book a day and a time. Tell us when we can avail the Zoom room for you to do a presentation just like this on any topic of your choice on research mentorship. Fanuel Mashigadi, I see you. Dan Jinju, I see you. Rosemary Warui. People are clapping and they are cheering on. And I also would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the founder of AIDA Africa Journal Club, that is Aurelia Monene, our programs coordinator, Raymond, and our knowledge management lead, David. I would like to thank you all for your time. You could have been anywhere else on a Monday evening, but you're here. And together we learn and grow as usual in Journal Club. This week, we also have another presentation on Thursday on overcoming plagiarism. So please set aside this 1 hour from 6 to 7 to attend and participate actively in order to know how to avoid plagiarism in research. So from me, I'm the lead mentor, Dr. Wangare. It's so wonderful to see you all this evening. If you are new to Journal Club, please join us using the links I shared in the chat. And at this time, I would like to say goodbye and have a good evening. So I'm just going to wait a little as people exit, and then I will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nazarene, for the presentation. Thank you, Wangare, too.
Yeah, thanks, Joyce. Thank you, Nazarene. Always a pleasure. We look forward to the next one. All right, now I'm going to stop recording.